Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy channel. My name is Jed and we are doing philosophical midwifery again today. Hooray for us. So we have been exploring the 12 stages in philosophical midwifery, the process we have to go through to discover our unsuspected false belief about ourselves and the world that we are carrying that causes our projections, that causes our false interpretations, that causes us to repeat the cycles of failures, that causes the negative states of mind, that causes us to function inappropriately in certain situations, that causes us to not be able to reach our goals or reach our goals with excellence, that cause us to not set the best sorts of goals that we can set. Causes us to forget that we've gone through this over and over through our past, causes us to forget the origin of this kind of belief, and causes us to be blind and confused by and often react defensively or aggressively towards any evidence or reason that shows that this particular belief is wrong. This belief is called a pathologos, which is the sick version of the logos. What we are discovering in philosophy is the logos of the, not the pathologos, false image of the self, but the actual self. The understandable, knowable, intelligible order of reality that unfolds from the first cause, the one self, beyond even existence, beyond even experience, the necessary cause of those things, unfolds from the first cause into the levels of ontology or dimensions of reality. Creating the conditions for life and life to evolve into sharing in said intelligence and ultimately evolving to the stage where we can reflect upon ourselves with language. Ousia and logos together being the necessary conditions for evolution. Ousia to reflect on oneself, and logos to be able to do that through language, dialogue, conversation, intelligence, and reason. Ousia and logos, two ancient Greek words that we are using because they are now everyday English words. We have decided we use them so much that now they're part of our language, which is important. If you don't have a word for something, how can you use it? If you don't have a word for something, how can you see it? Which is exactly the situation of our problems in reverse. If we don't have a word for the pathologos idea of the self, how do we see it? If we can't see it and we can't use it, we are slaves to it, chaining us to fate. So our job is to put words on that which we have not put words on yet. Both in philosophy for our evolution, but in midwifery to discover our unsuspected pathologos. We're putting words on what we were not able to when we were young. So we can see it, so we can use it, so we're not a slave to it, so we can judge it, and understand it sufficiently enough to be free from it. Freedom. True freedom. That's what we're after. A kind of enlightenment or a level of enlightenment that is often preferred to even the greatest experience of enlightenment. Because it's a kind of freedom. A freedom from what's false. So we can have a lot of fun discussing those two kinds of enlightenment experiences. one, the brilliant light of pure being that we reflect upon, understand, have dialectics about in philosophy, and this other one that's more, they're both in both, but philosophical midwifery seems to be more focused in that other kind of enlightenment, the clarity and freedom from distortions, from interpretations and projections, from being a sleepwalker or a zombie or an NPC, bound into the same repeating script, repeating states of mind, repeating problems and blocks from development. Isn't that interesting? That there are these two really high states of being that humans have been in that seem to be the greatest levels of being or experience that humans have ever documented, ever talked about, ever shown an interest in. And it's open to all of us. You don't have to be an ancient Greek. You don't have to be a Hellenic. You don't have to be a Jew or a Christian or a Catholic or a Protestant or a Presbyterian or anything like that. It's just part of being alive. Part of being alive as a human being who can reflect on themselves and awaken that aspect of their own being. Isn't that interesting? I think it's neat.
Wow.
So does Owen Wilson.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And his three brothers. So that's what we're doing here. Now, that characteristic that comes along with this kind of evolution of a freedom from distortions is what we have been looking at recently, because as we go through the philosophical midwifery process, we have been understanding it as four basic categories or level or what would you call it? Levels? Super Saiyan level 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and Super Saiyan God. Super Saiyan Blue, Rose, God, Ultra Instinct, whatever. I'm not really up to date with all of the Super Saiyan levels at the moment. They've gone mental. So 4 stages of progress or development as we go through this, the most important human activity that humans can go through, philosophical midwifery. And why 4? Well, as we've been learning, the self-logos that we are following in philosophy, or really the love of wisdom, that's what it means, seems to follow a structure called the dialectic. Socrates uses it in his conversations to treat people beneficially and artfully, like a true friend or a true lover. The gentle art, charming art of dialectic. We use it in thinking. We've been reading the Meno, and Meno doesn't seem to be able to think very well, reason very well, because he hasn't learned the structure of thinking. He can't define anything. He just points to things he likes and says, that's a definition of virtue, that's a definition of excellence. Being sexist, having all the stuff, invading your enemies, right? Exactly how most people currently behave. Unable to define, unable to reason, and unable to communicate the results of their thinking and reasoning with others to benefit them. So, putting all these together, we have what we need for what we call an art. We are an artless society until we learn the dialectic. So what? So if the dialectic is how we structure our thinking and reasoning, we want to look for that in what we do. And if midwifery is the greatest activity, now you could say, well, it goes along with philosophy, dream analysis, and sharing that in mythology. But yeah, if you were to pick one, it would be midwifery. Freeing us from what chains us, and freeing us from what causes our horrible injustices, individually, collectively, and as a species. So we better look for the dialectic within the structure of philosophical midwifery then, if it's the most important thing we can do. That's what we've been doing. Thumbs up. So we have identified, well, it's also a mnemonic device. It helps us to remember, because we want to be practicing philosophical midwifery every day if we can. Every time we meet up for breakfast. This is my protein breakfast. With our friends or loved ones. Every time we meet for a coffee and our friend says, hey, what's the hot goss? Do you know who's been kissing who? And you'll say, no, I don't care. Because what I want to talk about over coffee, cheers, look at this. You are magical, it says. What I want to talk about with you over coffee is a block I've been facing to my excellence. Or what I have just learnt about midwifery today in the Awakening Philosophy stream. So if we're doing that every day, how do we remember the stages we go through? We organize it according to the dialectic. So it not only nails down the right opinions that we are getting from our reading, it also helps us to remember them. Which is especially important if we are midwifing somebody else. Because you now have a map, a blueprint, set of blueprints of what sorts of questions you can ask the person you care about. Hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Have you thought about this? And you can watch them evolve and level up right before your eyes. Wouldn't that be neat? To see a loved one improve and evolve, free themselves from what's been causing their suffering, and awaken into their true selves? Wouldn't that be a neat thing to see happen over coffee? Those kids on my soundboard say yay. And their older brothers say and their hamsters say everyone in their house agrees. So to review, what have we seen so far? We've seen the first category is definition. The first category of the dialectic is definition. What can you say about the subject itself? Now, what makes midwifery different is it's not just pure reasoning, as philosophy looks at. Defining justice, defining virtue, using the text. We are freeing ourselves from what's false, so we start with a kind of false definition. And ultimately, what we want to uncover is a false definition of the self that that we do not know we have. It's that ignorance and unawareness that keeps us bound. So it's kind of a inverse version of the dialectic, in a sense, but in some senses it's not.
Wow.
So, give a definition of your problem. That's how you start. Now, we've also been looking at the fact that to get into this game, you have to have a level of being called philosophical ignorance. If you already think you know everything, why learn? Which is the problem that we face, and we talked about in our last stream about philosophy. If these 4 activities, midwifery, philosophy, dream analysis, which is your personal spiritual guide in both, and sharing it, or mythology, if these are the 4 aspects of the primary single archetypal art, the hero's journey, the quest of man, why aren't we doing it every day all the time? And we talked about how, one issue is, if this is the quest to know the self, why do that if you already think you know the self? Why learn something you already think you already know? Yeah. That's called regular ignorance, to believe you know something you don't. So you can't get into the game. We have to awaken a kind of being completely at a loss, or in the Greek, aporia. We call it being stung. You're stung. Stung with a jellyfish in the middle of the ocean, and you can't move or swim, and there's nowhere to go, and you're completely all at sea, completely empty. The Buddhists talk about emptying your cup so you can fill it with wisdom. Yeah. That's a movement from regular ignorance to philosophical ignorance. When you have become aware that you don't know something and you eagerly want to figure it out. We saw that in the Meno we've been reading as well, which is why we have to be doing both midwifery and philosophy. Meno says, well, hang on a second. Why search? You either know it already, in which case, why waste your time? Or you don't know it, in which case, how do you know what to look for? And how do you know when you found it? So, both are a waste of time, and Socrates says, no, my lad. No, my son. If there's one thing that I will fight for in both word and deed, it's that we should always seek that which we don't know. It will make us more courageous. It will make us less apathetic, less of a loser with a loser mentality, some people say. Actually, let's nail down the whole thing. Okay, so we have the quote, and here it is. I would contend, says Socrates, in every way about the following as far as I am able, in both word and deed, that it will be better and more virile, which means courageous, and less idle, if we think that we must search for that which one does not know, rather than thinking it is not possible to discover that which we don't know, and that went away too quickly. And I'm going to pause the recording for a sec. All right, we've tidied up the quote to reflect English a little bit better. Here it is. From the Meno, in answer to Meno's objection about whether or not we should search for that which we don't know, he says, I would contend in every way about the following as far as I am able, in both word and deed, that it will be better and more courageous. We will be better and more courageous and less of a do-nothing loser if we think that we must search for that which one does not know, rather than thinking that it is not possible to discover that which we don't know, nor must we search. There you go. That's the quote. And I want Mino on the next line, but I won't do it. Anyway. So, there you go. There you go. So, that's still on the screen. We took a long time to get our quote machine thing working again, and I've forgotten why we were even talking about that. Oh yes, the movement from regular ignorance, which is thinking you know something that you don't actually know, and philosophical ignorance, which is emptying your cup or realizing you don't know, and doing what Socrates will fight in word and deed for. Searching for it, being open to it, being okay with not knowing, being somewhat comfortable with the uncomfortability of not knowing while searching. So that means in philosophical midwifery, you can't come in thinking you know everything about your problem specifically. Because if you know about the cause of your problem and what it takes to solve it, you don't have a problem. You wouldn't have a problem. So we encourage people to shoot for their highest goal, and achieving it in the highest possible way. Excellence. Tied therefore to that mysterious word, phronesis, the excellence of self that we are learning about in the Meno. Aim for your best in your best way. Always seeking to do betterer. Because only in doing that can you surface where you're at, what level you are stuck at. And that's not enough. Go out and try to overcome that block until you can't. Because then you realize you currently don't have what you need. You don't know what you need to know to solve your problem. Your cup is empty. And then call your friend and say, hey, I have reached... I'm trying to put my slippers on, but they're backwards. I have reached a stage where I have a problem that I can't solve. It's time for a midwife talk. And they'll say... And then they'll say, you buy me a coffee and we'll talk. So, that first stage, definition. The 4 stages we're looking at that you go through. Define your problem. What do you think your problem is? And you'll be wrong. That's good. We're looking for. Give a definition of your problem. Now, within each of those 4 categories, it's also the same 4. So within the definition category, give a definition of your problem. A. B. Give a demonstration of your problem. When did it happen? Something recently. Now, the sort of problem that we're looking at has to be a kind of repeating problem. It can't be a one-off. I dropped my keys on my toe. No. Give a couple of examples of this problem. Division. So the first one was a definition of your problem. Give a demonstration of it, maybe a couple, and then division. let's talk about it for a while. Let's, give some time and discussion to this so that what does division allow for? Key ideas to unfold. So from that functioning or demonstration, what key ideas unfold from that? So we're dividing it up further. So as normal functioning and demonstration becomes more nuanced and more granular, I suppose, with C, division, key ideas. But also division looks at different contexts, a broader context. What's the significance of this functioning? How does it play out in this or that area? How does it play out in your relationships? That same problem that we've just defined. Crap. That we've just given a definition of and looked at some examples of. Where else does it occur? Can you see a similar sort of thing playing out in your relationships, at jobs, and at play? Okay, and from division, we look at that manyness, the manyness of ideas and the manyness of contexts or situations, and can we unify it? Is there one key idea or a key cause or a key wholeness that incorporates all of those parts together that you can synthesize? That's the fourth stage, conclusion, which has synthesis and analysis. Once you synthesize it, you do something with that synthesis. You take it back to the start. So definition is self to self. Functioning, how that thing you've just defined itself functions to others. The broader context is division, others to other others. Other key ideas unfolding from other contexts, other others. Synthesis takes those other others and makes it a single other. Back to self. So self to others to others, and others back to self. So it comes back to the start. That's the conclusion stage. Once you synthesize it, you got to do something with it. In philosophy, you take it back to the original definition to improve or level up or upgrade your definition of beauty, of excellence, of justice, or whatever it is that we're looking at. But here it's different because we are surfacing what's false. Philosophy looks at what's true. Midwifery examines and looks at what's false. Examine and looks at's the same word. I have to take off my jumper. Pause. And we're back. So self to self to others, others to others, others back to self. The four possible ways of arranging the two primary ideas, self and other. Isn't that neat? So we're using what would be the logical unfolding of reality from its two most primary terms. If everything evolves from self, then the first thing has to be other. Or from our own experience, the first thing we are aware of is ourselves. But then, others. What isn't ourself? This tuk-tuk is not me. This protein drink is other than myself. Isn't that neat? The most important activity we can learn is simply the four logical steps that unfold from the first two logical things, both in reality unfolding and in our direct experience. Isn't that neat? Isn't it like pretty? And speaking of pretty, where's my stuffy? Oh, she lives here now. I think that's neat. And it helps us to remember it as well. So the dialectic isn't just the model of understanding of dianoia. So all of those four aspects that we apply the dialectic to, philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology, we call the single art of philodianoia or philodianoia, the love of understanding. So it's not just understanding that is awesome, but it's also a neat mnemonic device. How do you remember these four categories? Oh, easy. Self, 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 other, self. Those are the four possible ways you can combine those two terms. And the most primary relationship would be between two things. Easy? Fun? Cool? What do you say?
Well, you're doing your best. Okay, so sorry, Ben. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Okay. So, give a definition of what you think your problem is. Self to self. Give an example of how it's functioning in your present. Self to others. Demonstration. Give a few so it's not just I spilt my coffee one day. Then number 3, which is part C, division. What are some other contexts that in which it applies? How does it play out in other areas? From which key ideas will unfold? And those key ideas in part 4 or part D, you need to synthesize into the other and then do something with that synthesis. Bring it back to the original self. Bring it back to your first definition. Other back to self. Synthesis and analysis is that last stage. Thumbs up. Okay, so we had a question as we were reading. What exactly synthesizes the key ideas that function in our problems? That's a question. But the taking it back to the start, or the analysis part, is the reflection on how what we have discovered is really causing our problems differs from that first definition. So while in philosophy, you have an idea of beauty, you do the dialectic, you apply not your own logos, your personal pathologos, but the logos of the text, the logos of the self-logos actually. That's why we read Socrates. He's not just talking about his dumb opinions. He's talking about what's true of the logos, the self-logos, the unfolding of the self. And that which allows us to return to self, to know ourselves, to reach our highest goal. So, a little bit different. So what we see is we were wrong. So let's jump into the text. So D, we're up to. They're encouraged to explore any difficulty that turns them away from their goal, making their failures inevitable. So what unifies our problems? The difficulty is the effect of the presence of negative thoughts, feelings, inappropriate actions. And then after you become somewhat familiar with midwifery, you can be led to analysis, reflect on the differences between the statement you gave in your original definition of their problem and the description that you have now seen of the difficulties that actually turn you away from your goal. After the subjects understand that our problems are solvable, which is important and neat, my shirt off so I can turn my lights down so it's winter. So there's not much sun out. A bit white and shiny right now. Look at the shininess. Anyway. Yes, you see that problems are solvable, which is super important. No need for prisons, no need for prison camps, no need for concentration camps, no need for genocide. Because problems are solvable. You don't even have to believe in whatever Sky Jesus or Sky Daddy that you have. No need to pray for forgiveness. Thoughts and prayers, we say to them. Why? Well, because problems can be understood. So let's just do that. Hey? Wouldn't that be the mature and rational thing to do? Yes. So after you understand that problems are solvable, intelligible, and appreciate the difference that you see in this analysis is another manifestation of your problem. It's a kind of distortion. It will reflect the kind of distortion, the kind of lack of intelligibility or lack of understanding that you have. And that's neat. However, introducing this comparison while you're still a baby, while you're a newbie, can make you confused. And so we have to play that one by ear. But that's where it is. That's the map. Synthesis and analysis. So, neat. But that is the fourth level. The fourth stage in that first category. But the principle that we looked at last time, hyparxis, the highest level of one, level of whatever you're on, becomes the first step in the next one. So what we talked about with philosophical ignorance, most people are living the NPC life. They're just following the programming of their pathologos. But within that level of being that we start at, some people are better than others. Now that might rub you the wrong way if you are taught by, I was going to swear, terrible idiots. Do not judge. The people who say don't judge are usually creeps and jerks, because what they're really saying is don't judge me, because then you'll realize I shouldn't be the one telling you what to do, including telling you how to think by saying don't judge me. Alright, so once we realize that's just stupid, we can judge that certain people are better. Of course there are. Certain people do crimes and do genocides, and some people are doing their best to reflect with understanding on causes and principles and sharing that with others, which benefits individuals and our whole species. They are better. They are better than the others who peddle ignorance or push propaganda, or we call them nowadays, we used to call them Nazis, but now we call them right-wingers. For some reason we're being polite to them. But anyway, those right-wing propagandists who lie to cause people to act against their own interest while they rape and pillage humanity and resources, they are shit. They are terrible people. Because they are functioning in a terrible way. We call them Nazis or fascist or jerks because that's a definition that reflects their demonstration or functioning. That's how you name things, based on what they do. So if a doctor isn't making you healthy, they're not functioning as a doctor. They're a scammer or whatever they're really doing, right? So, that principle being, if such people are doing so, seeking their most meaningful goals in the most intelligent, understanding way, reflecting on themselves to find out what they're carrying that's false, well, that's the best of us. That's the top of one level. But then once they realize that in pursuing their most intelligent, intelligible, meaningful goals, they've hit a block, now they can upgrade into this activity, midwifery. That's the idea of hyparxis. The top of one level is the beginning of the next. So too we see that principle of hyparxis playing out here. What is a higher way of seeing this synthesis and analysis, this conclusion stage of the first category, the definition category. There are 4 categories. Each has the dialectic within them. But the lowest level of 1, which is D, or the highest level of 1, D, this new seeing that your problems are actually caused by negative thoughts, feelings, inappropriate actions that make failures inevitable. Problems are understandable, a new way of seeing, and your prior understanding of your problem was wrong. This is a high way of functioning, a new upgrade. So it's the highest level of a misdefinition of your problem, because now you're seeing that it's wrong, and you're having some clues about why it's wrong. Now you've upgraded in this level to the next level. So the 4th stage of the dialectic, conclusion, is now the first stage of the next category. It's the definition of the demonstration. Now let's write that on the board so it's not too complicated. So we've got my pen, this. Self to self is definition. Self to others is demonstration. Others to others is that division we're talking about, other contexts from which key ideas unfold. So this is a manyness. That manyness has to be unified into this new other. That's the synthesis. That's taken back to the self, which is analysis, and that's the conclusion stage. So that's our model of the dialectic. So the first stage we can call category 1, the definition. Category or stage. Let's say category. Within that, we have A, B, C, and D. Define your problem. Give a demonstration of it of a few actually in your present. Division. Let's talk about it over lunch, over coffee, over breakfast, over eggs. In the morning. Division. Cheers. This lighting isn't very flattering. I swear. Anyway. And then from that, we have D. Whoops. Which is the conclusion, or a new synthesized understanding, and related back to see that our definition was wrong. And this is also the starting point to the demonstration category. Demonstration category. Which would start with D. So D is also a new definition. See how that works? A new, different from the first one that you've seen with analysis, but a new definition which we got from the synthesis. A new definition. So E would be the functioning of this new definition. The new definition of what are we looking for? What's all this about? All of this is about understanding or figuring out or finding out what causes, there's our big word. So the people who are the best out there seem to be the people reflecting on causes. The worst are the people who are trying to stop that. Hey, don't look at the causes of your suffering. Wealth inequality, for example. people being able to lie on TV, that kind of thing. Those worst kinds of people prevent us from looking at causes and offer us false intimidation or blame games. Oh, it's the Browns, it's the women's, it's the poors. Let's kill them and put them in concentration camps, right? They are the worst of us. The right-wingers, the fascists, the capitalists, the conservatives, you name it, that's what they are. They're the worst of us. Whereas what we want to do that makes us the best, the Hyparxis of human beings. Oh, hey, welcome. Glad to see you here. Thanks for checking in. I hope it's nice to listen to. Can you hear the background music while I chatter over the top? Some lo-fi beats. Finding the cause in capital letters of awesome. I did a little bit of mixing yesterday to make sure it was at the right volume, but let me know. Finding the cause of our problems. Therefore, we can say this is the activity that we're all here to do. It's the most important activity because this is what solves human problems. And what we see playing out in our society is the implications of what follow if we don't do midwifery. Why? Historically, we trace it back to the death of Socrates. We murdered Socrates for sharing this. That's a problem that we have to face. Because he was murdered before he was able to do mythology. He did dream analysis, he did midwifery, he did philosophy, but he was getting ready to share that better in mythology right when we killed him. Not only that, we killed him in front of his student Plato, when Plato was in his 20s. So not old enough to have gone through this process completely. And also, so meaning that Plato wasn't able to share with us dream analysis and midwifery. He did very well in sharing the logos of philosophy. That's why we read his books today, to do the philosophy aspect. So we can also keep a reminder of the four aspects, reflecting again the dialectic. Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. My music and vocals are nice. We say, hey, what's the definition of what's true? Philosophy. The logos apply, or dialectic and logos, the love of, we call this philodainoia. I'm not sure whether it's philo or phila. I think phila rolls off the tongue. Philodainoia. Now we're making up the word, so we can call it whatever we want. This is the art. We could say, hey, philosophy is how we get the true definition of self and reality. But that functions in our life as a human being in a way where we never reach it. Because you also have to be doing philosophical midwifery to remove what's false. But in a broader context, we also have to be doing dream analysis, because you can't do these things alone. You need some sort of spiritual guide. Now, hopefully we can make friends with people here and we can share as we go, and this Stuffy is the wisest of all of us, so she whispers in my ear some guidance whenever I need it. But your personal guide is your dream master. Again, it's the same love of understanding, the same dialectic we apply to unpacking and understanding the messages we get of our dreams that apply to both. And then ultimately, once we have unified all of that into this other, we want to take it back to the start or share what we have seen. That's mythology. Write some stories about it. Make a cartoon about it. Make some Twitch content about it if you like. What we are examining right now is this one here, midwifery. We are wanting to find the cause of our problems. So you can say philosophical midwifery. We could actually go and add some more notes next to this. We could say philosophical philosophy is what's true. Midwifery addresses what's false. Dream analysis addresses both. And mythology shares. Because we have to keep the tradition going. We are human beings. It's not a solo quest. Even though that anime solo quest is awesome. So we're doing this. What's false? Same love of understanding, which is the logos and dialectic, and ousia, reflecting it. We're applying it to ourselves. We're not applying it on how to, manipulate people to make the big bucks. Ousia and logos and dialectic. So, excuse me, we have a new category. We start off with a definition category of what's false. A false understanding of our problems. But then we see, this is how it plays out in our lives. This is the greater context in C. And then D, synthesize it. What's actually causing your problems? A certain negative state of mind, a certain way of thinking, a certain inappropriate actions, all of which come together to lead to inevitable failures. If you think this way, if you feel this way, and if you act this way in these situations, you will fail. That's what's called fate. So we're escaping from fate. So this new understanding is the new definition. So what's here? The hyparxis, the highest level of this, is the beginning of the next stage. Just as we find people who are doing their best to reflect on causes of problems, not just causes of problems, but to understand what's true about something. The causes of truth and falseness in the world. These are the best sorts of people. These are the people who we want to share this with the most, because they're most likely to level up and get into this game of Philodainoia. Now that's the reasoning behind it, and I can tell you from being in this game for a very long time, it's true. I've tried to share it with everyone. Oof. Dangerous, as we saw with Socrates. Now this, as we say, this used to be an esoteric tradition or a hidden teaching, but we don't have time for that anymore because, as we say, we are playing out the implications of a counter-attack against Socrates. Our turning point, the turning point in our history. Socrates was a master of all of these things. Well, Socrates didn't get to mythology. On his last days, he said, my dreams, I do dream analysis, he says, and my dreams are saying, I need to share what I know about these two things in populous poetry and songs. He talked about, he's not much of a myth maker himself, but he can use Aesop's fables, and he can rework them to add the logos in. And we said, no, the biggest jerks of us have a political say and they want to kill you because that's the pathologos. The pathologos is opposed to the logos. And we said, hey, let's all take a vote because democracy is good for some reason. Instead of, actually having an art. Do you take a vote on where you make the incision in a medical procedure, or do you just use understanding? Now we say, well, voting's important because what if there's corruption? Well, We have voting now, and we can vote in people who manipulate popular opinion, like the right-wingers and the fascists and the Nazis and stuff. People who own the media. So it's not a very good safety net. What might be a better safety net is an objective, understandable, testable, verifiable understanding of the true model of what helps, what benefits. Just like medicine, just like flying a plane. In other words, applying that same maturity and rationality that we apply to many other things to that which we are immature and irrational about. Ourselves. Interesting that what we are blocked from as an evolving species is not our ability to be rational. We can do this. We do it on this channel. It's a lot of fun. Socrates talked about it a long time ago. Homer wrote stories about it. The story of Achilles is somebody going through this very process. He started off with the biggest jerk, with the biggest problems. He looked at his dreams. He discovered a false belief that he examined, and he questioned his earliest teachers. He did philosophical midwifery, and he was there free to function in a high way at the end of the story. And all of this was shared by Homer as a myth. Someone who believed that he was chosen by God, like the Jews, like the Catholics, like you name it. Like every single family pathologos thinks my way of being is right. My mummy and daddy were actually God priests who knew it all and knew what loving is and knew what caring is and knew what strength and justice were. That's part of what we get when we become human. We get what we need to have the worst kind of injustice due to this false loyalty to who we grow up with. But we also get what we need to overcome it. The double-edged sword of being a human. We have what we need for the worst kinds of injustices, but also for the highest kind of excellence. So, best to look for those people who are the best of us. The hyparxis people. They are going to be more open, I think, in my experience, to this new art or rediscovery of what we left behind. Which is actually what we do in midwifery too. In order to uncover your personal blocks, you have to go back to where you left off when you were young. That's why we're hunting down the origin scene where we first got this false definition. But also why we encourage people to, hey, what did you love to do when you were young? Did you have an instrument? Was there an activity? Did you love to read? Did you love to read to others? Did you love to share your music with others? Go back to it and pick it up again. Yeah, you're going to be blocked. That's why you put it down. But that's the point. Now that block is gold. It will be exactly what you need to surface the material that you can then arrange in this system for your enlightenment, for your development, for your growth, to free yourself from those blocks, to allow you the space to awaken the true nature of self. A double-edged sword, but the positive side. The highest excellence. And a few episodes ago, we talked about what will be the significance of not just doing it as an individual, the significance of that for your own evolution and your incarnations, or maybe even escaping the cycles of reincarnation as the Hindus talk about it, or as Socrates talks about it in the Phaedo, escaping not only the chains of your ignorance, but the prison of reincarnation. But what about our species? What if our whole culture does it? We have to do it, otherwise, what do they say? The Armageddon clock is 2 minutes to midnight. But if we do it, what could be the implications for our race within a greater whole? Something fun to wonder about. So back to the individual. We have a new So that principle of the best sorts of people who are looking for the cause of problems and also the cause and principles of our excellence. Similarly, individually, we're looking to do that here, looking at the cause of our problem, which starts as a false definition, but now we have a better understanding of what causes our problems. That's D. Which would mean we would have a new demonstration. So whatever this new unity is, this new synthesis, this new understanding is, how does it function? Or demonstration. That's our working hypothesis. These are all hypotheses. This isn't knowledge. These are all ifs. We are looking for the most likely if. That itself synthesizes and unifies all the work we've done in philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology. We use our highest visions and our highest understanding from the texts that we read to create a likely story. A likely mythology, you could say, a likely story. If. The most beautiful and necessary, sure, but you don't know it at this level because our evolution is an upgrading of cognitive functions and awakening to different levels of reality. Meaning, at one level, what starts as a hypothesis is confirmed in the next level. So, for instance, in philosophy, we're in the physical world of becoming, but we spend our time as best we can. Hopefully we get over this capitalism shit so we can all be completely free to have all of our free time. We have the sufficient understanding and technology to no longer trade in our life for survival, meaning we could have a lot more free time, but whatever we have, we spend it doing this in the world of becoming, which is the use of our highest faculties, understanding. Again, midwifery to remove our allegiance to beliefs and opinions and shapes and colors that we're attracted to. And again, read the books to get right opinion, but even that to learn about understanding. So that's the cognitive development we can do in the physical world with whatever time we have, but we apply it to the world of being. What is beauty itself in the symposium? What is justice itself in the Republic? What is the excellence of humanity in the Meno? And so on. That's Philodyne, the love of understanding applied to what's true. But the whole point is to confirm the likely hypothesis, the ifs, our understanding, in the direct experience. We want to go to the party. There's an expression, you don't send your slave to the feast. Or I guess we could upgrade it for modern terminologies. You don't send I'm not familiar with the terminology. You don't send your wife's boyfriend to her bedroom, because that would make you a soy cuck. You don't want to be a soy cuck. I feel gross even trying to use that analogy. It's a thing that's popular now, calling someone a cuck. The principle is you don't send your slave to the feast or the bedroom. You want to have these experiences yourself. It's the fun parts of life. Meaning we confirm our our understanding in the direct experience. That's called nous, or pure ousia, or maybe pure is not the right word. Ousia itself, so we can say self-ousia. Self-ousia. And we're doing a kind of ousia, so it's through the principle of likeness that we improve. Like the people, the best people out there are being very much like what we're doing here. They reflect on causes of problems. They try and share an understanding of principles. It's the fascists that say one rule for the poor, one rule for the rich. That's not a principle. The best people say, no, rules are for everyone. So principles and causes that are universal, that they have reflected on, that's ousia, with understanding and sharing it as best they can. That is very, very much like what we're doing here. Likeness is the principle of going up. It's also the principle of creation, or the unfolding down. Whatever you create is going to be like yourself. So it's likeness down and likeness up as well. That's pretty neat. But the idea is we confirm, so we are being like ousia, like pure self-logos, self-ousia, in being, through understanding, through dianoia. And the point is to confirm it in the actual ousia experience, the actual direct encounter with the intelligibility of being, self-logos. That's the difference between understanding and nous, or knowledge with a capital K. So that's that principle of you end up with a likely story at one level, like the world of becoming, that you can only prove when you upgrade to the next level. Now, we talked about that last stream when we talked about axioms. In order to do geometry, you have to take for granted certain principles, like things that are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. Here's another principle you have to take for granted to do something more intelligible that you can't prove in the physical world. Here's one. Speaking of one plus 1 equals 2. Now, famously, there's some right-wing Joe Rogan propagandists who are trying to undermine our use of reason so they can privatize the school systems and further ensure our enslavement, oppression, injustice, and eventual destruction for the money on their computers. Fucking dickheads. Anyway, one of the famous ones have gone on Joe Rogan's podcast recently at the time of recording to say, 1 and 1 doesn't actually equal 2. There are a lot of people out there, they're often paid by big oil billionaires and stuff. But we can make fun of them, which is important. That's division. That's showing the absurdities that follow if you don't accept 1 and 1 equals 2. Then any idiot can say, same thing with medicine. That's Trump's whole thing. These idiots who are rejecting understanding, saying, I should be in charge of the healthcare system. I'm rejecting 1 and 1 equals 2. Maybe 1 and 1 equals 5 because my Bible says so, or because whatever, my cult says so, or my daddy says so, whatever. And now, all of the terrible, terrible problems we are seeing in American culture is just the implications of that, the absurdities that follow that. Now, we don't have to play it out in real time if we learn to master the dialectic. Because playing out the absurdities of what follows if you reject the truth, if you reject principles, causes, and axioms, that's Socratic humor. Socrates does it all the time in his dialogues. Make fun of these jerks. Because we haven't learned this, we have to play it out in real time until the problems become strong enough where we turn around and realize, holy shit, we don't have what we need to solve our human problems in the current system. the very same philosophical ignorance you need as an individual to get into this game. I don't have what I need to reach my most meaningful goals. I have an empty cup now. Now you can learn. Same thing with culture. We don't have what we need to solve Nazis. We're still fighting Nazis. We still have capitalism. We still have fascism. We still have child slave labor and wage slave labor and etc. We don't have what we need to solve problems currently. That's becoming mature. Now, we don't have to play that out in time and space, in experience, if we can do it in dialogue, in dialectic. That's the significance of the art of Philodianoia. Now, you can find YouTubers who do content like that. I talked about some last time, but then they had a really terrible guest, and so now I'm not promoting their channel anymore because I tried to leave a comment saying, hey, maybe this isn't the sort of guest you should have. But there is one guy that I've just discovered that's really fun. He does this. Oh, Professor Dave Explains. Shout out to that guy. Some fun content. He does this. He looks at those jerks who are trying to reject principles and axioms of reason and understanding, and he makes fun of them because he's a scientist and he's a fun guy. Check it out if you want some light, fun content. Professor Dave Explains? Yeah. Fun dude. Oh, and also if he is doing this, most like what we do in philosophical midwifery. Hey, welcome, Fly. Great to have you here. Then he might be the sort of person that you could become friends with and say, hey, I really love what you're doing. Do you know that you are very much like what Socrates does when he takes the absurdities or the rejections of, hey, welcome, sus, welcome. Wow, it's a party. We've got 3 chatters. I don't know if I've had that for a while. Where he takes people who have a terrible position and he, through reason and dialectic, or through reason and dialogue, he shows the absurdities that follow. You know that you're doing something similar. The difference is Socrates is able to talk to the person themselves. Philosophical midwifery. You're making great fun content, so you're very, very close. That's the principle of hyparxis. So that might be the sort of person who could be open to emptying his cup and being curious about taking those principles that he enjoys anyway to that next level. So as an example. Anyway, what we are talking about, 1 on 1 equals 2, is the reason we're talking about it now is that's example of a principle or axiom that you need to trust to simply play in the physical world, in the world of becoming. You need to realize if I have $1 and I add $1, now I've got $2. If you want to buy a protein drink for $2 at the store. Oh, nice. You searched through tags. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Welcome. I hope you have some fun. The whole point of this is to make this single quest we are on as human beings the rational, intelligible, verifiable in your own experience, so you don't have to believe anyone else, game of loving, understanding, Philodianoia, fun and interesting and engaging, and I have a stuffy. I also have soundboards that say things like this.
I've been a bad little girl.
That's Emma from the Majority Report.
That's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going around doing that in the weirdo pool. That's you.
That's R.M. Brown. He's fun too. I'm working on my soundboard. But yeah, anyway. The idea is to make it fun. And you can join the Discord as well to Gnosticism. So that's what we're talking about right now. Gnosticism is from the word nous, or gnosis. Put a G on the front if you fancy. Which is the direct experience of the realm of being that we have to, making a good story is part of it. That's the myth element. So just to refresh real quickly, what we are learning is how to think, how to structure our thinking according to the principle of rational structure itself. It's called the dialectic. Now on this channel, we apply it to seeking what's true about self, reality, beauty, justice, all of these things. So we read Socrates to discover the dialectic, to apply it to what's true. But because we are human beings, that's not enough. As you seek your most meaningful goals, you will hit blocks. Why? Because every human being gets from a very young age, from what's called an origin scene, a imitation of a spiritual teaching, an imitation of a, what do they call it? A Dharma successorship, an initiation or an enlightenment experience. Only it's not genuine enlightenment. It's our parents or parental surrogates pretending to be wise, pretending to be beauty itself, pretending to be justice itself. We walk away from that because we're too young to reflect, ousia, with words, logos. Ousia and logos are the two principles, and there are some balloons. We walk away taking the blame. We end up with a false belief about ourselves that causes us to be blocked from our development and causes our repeating cycles of failures, of problems, our projections, our anger, all of the shit that we can't turn around from. Because you didn't learn it through reason, you can't unlearn it through reason. The technique of discovering and removing what's false that binds us to our ignorance and suffering is called philosophical midwifery. We have to give birth to the sick idea and realize it can't survive the light of day and abort that sick baby. That's a term Socrates coined. That's what we're learning here. So there are 4 aspects to this single art, or the paradigm or the model of spirituality or the model of education or the model of the human quest. We call it philodianoia because that's, while philosophy means love of wisdom, philomethesis means love of learning, dianoia, or this special kind of understanding that follows this dialectic, is called dianoia. So we're doing a love of dianoia. It's applied to what's true. That's why we read the Balboa translation of Plato, so we have the right words. We also apply the dialectic to midwifery to free ourselves from what's false. But we have blind spots and it's difficult to do on our own. We do dream analysis. Every dream is a message from your personal guru, spiritual guide, that you can only get the benefit from if you unpack it by applying the dialectic. That's dream analysis, not dream interpretation. No. This isn't a BuzzFeed article. And by the way, like you're saying, that's not just good enough, because you have to remember all of your insights so you make a good story about it. And also, making a good story not only helps you remember it, it helps you share it with others. So those are the 4 aspects: philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology within the single art, philodianoia. Oh, neat. Right, okay, right. So that's an... So, when the true nature of piousness, like we said, the true nature of beauty itself, Now, let's take a couple of steps back. So, what philosophy is different from how it's taught currently. That's an issue because we have to overcome what's false to learn what's true. Currently, philosophy is being taught as a love of opinions. So you go to school, here's Kant's opinions, here's Hegel's opinions, here's Hitler's opinions, here's Trump's opinions. Who's to say what's right and wrong? That's stupid. Socrates calls that not love of wisdom, philosophy, but love of opinions, philodoxia. Now we have to recognize we're not doing that here. We're doing the real stuff. We're taking the real shit here. So what is philosophy? Well, we've been talking about the sorts of people we want to share this with. People in the physical world, or the realm of becoming. We call it becoming because everything in the physical world is coming to be or decaying. Everything is in change. Becoming. He says, look, the best sorts of people are people who love learning. Likely everybody who's come across this channel. Philo, love, methesis, love of learning. But when you do that, you apply learning to what's most meaningful to you in the physical world, you'll start to notice something. You'll start to notice a manyness. A manyness of beautiful things, for example. Ever notice that you've seen more than one beautiful person? Hey, maybe even a beautiful painting or a beautiful sunset? If you are that way inclined and you not only are loving learning but reflecting on yourself, that's the principle of ousia, the ability we have to reflect on ourselves. You might be led to the question, what is the one that's the cause of the manyness? If that's a beautiful person and that's a beautiful person and this is a beautiful stuffy, what's the one principle or cause of beauty that allows for us to have it as an adjective in the physical world? What's the noun? As soon as you start asking that question, yes, she's so pretty and wise. That's why I kiss her on the head. Right. Our desire for beauty is love, exactly. So what's that thing that we really love that we can have eternally? Or in other words, hey, you've seen beauty as an adjective in the physical world. Where is it as a noun? That means it has to exist in a realm prior to space and time, prior to the physical world. That's called the world of being. So it's outside of time and space. It's prior to time and space. So it's eternal. It's eternal. That's the realm that you can't see through your physical senses. Of course, your physical senses see the physical world, where you get your opinions. So your opinions are down here in the physical world. We want to gain, like you mentioned before, nous. Nous is the direct experience of the realm of being. You have a sixth sense called ousia that can turn around from your physical senses and experience itself, allowing us to experience self-beauty. So we have a list of selfers. Self is an honorific, like Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones. But what self means in philosophy is beauty itself, justice itself. These are all aspects of this experience of pure being, the brilliant light of pure being. what some spiritual traditions like Taoism think is enlightenment. But we want to understand it as well as experience it. So we can, oh yeah, it's a enlightenment experience. It's not the only one, because you can go into it in different depths. Some people have that experience and they say, wow, I just experienced the most profound thing ever. And you're like, hopefully they'll have friends like everybody here. Oh, that's really lovely of you to say, so. Friends who have not just jumped into it through chanting or meditation or a lot of drugs or lots of different ways, childbirth even, you can have an experience of being. Oh, it's called Ousia, O-U-S-I-A. We need to add it to our language because we don't have a word for this in English. It's the Greek word, Ousia. The capacity of mind to turn around and know itself. So it's mind as the experiencer, but what you're experiencing is mind, but the act of turning around to know it is also the nature of mind. So it's mind, running out of space on the board. It's mind, minding, mind, making it a oneness. It's the oneness experience maybe you've heard some people talk about. Now, it's not one itself, it's a oneness. Why? Oneness. Because we can come back from that experience and realize in our reflection, because we love understanding, philodainoia, we can understand that, hang on a second, it had qualities. It was the most real experience. It had existence. You recognize yourself most truly. So there was some sort of intelligence that could recognize yourself. It was the most dynamic thing. There was a life there. It wasn't a dead experience. And you can go on to realize, oh, hang on a second. It can be experienced as the perfection of beauty or the ideal of justice. Or as you recognized from one of the Platonic dialogues, I forget which one offhand, the true nature of piousness, or to be like the gods. Because you will be like the gods because the gods are eternal. Outside of time and space, it's eternity. In the symposium, we apply the dialectic to beauty and love because it's also beauty itself. By the way, if you love someone and you want to express that, you don't say, yeah, I want to be kind of close to you. You say, I want to be the closest possible. I even want to rip off all my clothes to get so close to you. But that's not enough. We want to be with our beloved forever. So we say things like, I want to be with you until the stars fall out of the sky, my love. Now, you can't have that in the physical world. It's not possible because because you're not going to live that long. But that desire for eternal connection with beauty itself, you can get in philosophy. That's the underpinning desire that we have within our soul. So that's philosophy, understanding beauty itself or justice itself or life or intelligence or existence. Yes. Well, but forever, right? You don't say, oh, I love you today, but yeah, tomorrow I probably won't like you that much. That wouldn't be very romantic. You wouldn't get what you're after if you talk to her in that way. What we're doing is we are expressing our soul's desire for being. Now, that's philosophy. So the sorts of people who love learning in the physical world, philomathesis, this is Socrates' word, will realize we see a manyness or adjectives. Now, if we are the sorts of people that we've been describing, the best people out there who are interested in reflecting on causes, we might ask ourselves, what's the cause of all these beautiful things? that sort of thing. Now, that way of thinking, loving reflection and understanding our causes, along with the human thing of running into a person, it's not a solo quest.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
It's the quest of all of us. But to upgrade certain upgrades require a certain person to come into your life, to ask you certain questions, to introduce you to a certain study that you might not have ever heard of before. Ideally, that can be everybody here. So once you've identified one of these people who shine with this kind of beauty, the love of understanding, the love of causes, Philomethesis, you can ask him these questions. That asking of questions is the dialectic. We're learning how to ask those kinds of questions that can awaken them to the next level. The reflection not of the physical world of becoming, but the metaphysical or the realm of being. That's called philosophia, the love of wisdom. Philosophy. That's philosophy. And it's important because what we are taught in our current culture is the opposite. And we can trace that back into where we started to diverge from where we were supposed to be going when we killed Socrates. And then the Romans came in and they killed everyone in the Dark Ages and all that shit. But it's not philosophy in terms of loving opinions in the physical world. By the way, the most popular YouTube content about philosophy are people who claim to be Stoics. They use the words that we use here, but they draw a line. They do not apply it to the realm of being and what's above, because there's a level beyond even being. They say, oh, courage isn't experienced in the realm of being as nous or sia or pure reality. No, it's just being a tough guy in the physical world. Being a big, tough, strong man or something like that. Being an alpha bro and getting lots of money, getting up at 4 a.m. and doing 10 push-ups. That kind of shit. It's called Stoicism. Using the language of philosophy, but misusing it to apply to the physical world only. Now, from what I have seen on YouTube, that's the majority of people talking about philosophy out there. So maybe a lot of them are very confident. Yes, you got it, Stoicism. A lot of them are very confident, so be gentle and be careful who you share this with, because our human development isn't simply the movement from loving understanding in the physical world to realizing that our true love is of wisdom in the realm of being, and then beyond that to the cause of even being. We're humans. We get something called a pathologos that blocks us from this development of logos, of reason, of reflection, of dialogue. This is the logos, the self-logos. We have a false logos we get from childhood that specifically keeps us blocked from this development by attacking the logos. That's why we killed Socrates. That's why you got to be careful who you share this with. Meaning our human quest isn't just philosophy. Philosophy is 1/4 of it. Philosophy is climbing the ladder of logos to find what's true. We also have to be getting rid of what's false. If you believe mummy and daddy were the most beautiful and just, you can't keep that and also experience true beauty and justice here. You can't be racist or sexist and realize it's all the same consciousness. You can't defend genocide and realize we're all on the same quest to know the self. You can't have both what's false and what's true. You have to remove the pretender of the throne off the throne within your soul. That's midwifery. And then you can use that freedom, or at the same time use that freedom to seek what's true. That's philosophy. Your guide is your dreams, so you need to be doing dream analysis, and of course we need to share it. That's mythology. Those are the 4 aspects. So, what we are doing here is... Oh, and we've just got to the end of the Meno, so we're wondering about what Platonic dialogue to look at next. But I'm actually thinking we might do a modern dialogue from somebody who is the master of the Logos as well, who passed away recently, called Jesus and Socrates, a Dialogue in Heaven. I think we might get into that one next because it's pretty awesome. So let's get rid of this. Yeah. So you guys, you're coming at a good time because we're about to start a new book, and this is one of the best books ever written. The author is the same author of this midwifery book, by the way, who rediscovered Socrates' art and formalized it. It's the only form of psychotherapy that's been empirically proven and validated. It's the only form of psychotherapy that can solve problems. Of course it is. It's just understanding problems. Of course there'll only be one. Like, how many ways can you fix a gasket on your carburetor? Just one. It has to go next to the bolt on the engine. It can't go on the bonnet. Oh, but my uncle says it's his opinion that, who cares? He's not a mechanic. We are being mechanics of, or doctors of the soul. Which means we have to discover whenever that voice comes in and says, what? A single way of understanding the nature of humanity and the quest of man and the meaning of life? I thought my uncle said that nobody can know that, or everyone's opinions are equal. Well, he would say that because he's a racist. He wants his stupid, ignorant, racist opinions to be just as equal as Socrates' true understanding. That's silly. But we will have that voice, which is why we have to do midwifery too. To not just blindly obey it, that internal self-critic or the kaka-daemon, the bad voice of the pathologo self that keeps our problems active. We learn to reflect on it, take notes about it, do midwifery on it, trace it back to its cause, and answer your uncle. Hey, Uncle Racist, fuck you. You are not wise. You tricked me. You are actually a racist. You're actually a tyrant. You're actually a thug. You do not have wisdom. Take your problem back. I don't want it anymore. It doesn't belong to myself. By the way, who are you copying when you're imitating that shit? You might give him a question as you say goodbye. Might wake him up a little bit. That's philosophical midwifery. Giving our fake problems back to our fake teachers who took advantage of our position being too young to have ousia and logos to speak up. And we're little babies, it's little wee babies like this big, little babies with our nappies on and our pacifier. We didn't ask a question. So we're taking this art of asking questions back to this origin scene to address this injustice with justice. And that process of discovering our problem, looking for the clues to trace those footprints back to that origin scene, and understand how to address it in a way that frees us from the problems in the present by addressing the past freeing us from our problems in the present, allowing us the freedom to reach our highest future. That's midwifery. In the chat. I'm going to read your chat in a minute. I have to take a quick bio break and pause, by the way. So, so in chat, Fly had to raise himself to the level of reflection about what's most beautiful and most challenging, both. He had to get his ass somewhere around people who share that interest. He had to have the courage to put words on his highest vision and understanding and his biggest difficulties. So Fly had to reach a certain level to play, to get in the door. Equally so, Reeve has to kind of match that in using what he has learnt so far in his from this channel or from his reflection on philosophy to ask a certain kind of directed question. That's the art we're learning. So using the words given to him by Fly, putting together a question, not telling him what to think, you're asking him, you're surfacing you're helping give birth to his ideas and insight, but directed. Like using that idea of beautiful women, beautiful painting, beautiful behavior, the manyness of which there is a oneness. So we have in chat a fantastic example of the art we're learning, the human game.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. Yes. So yes, yes. T-Mac and Alan Watts. Both. Alan Watts was like best friends with the author of this book. Him and Pierre Grimes were were buddies. Yes. Both were very poetic. Actually, we talked about Alan Watts in the first chapter of this book. The first chapter of the book is setting the stage. What are the stakes? And oh, by the way, you can find playlists on YouTube. There's a link somewhere where you can go back and you can check it out at your pace. But yeah, one of the things that we found in common with Pierre Grimes is he ran into certain key figures like T-Mac, like Alan Watts, like Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero's Journey. Like if you're doing screenwriting or anything like that at college, you have to read Hero of a Thousand Faces. Talk about the hero's journey. He worked closely with the guy who made Star Wars, George Lucas. He also, the guy that if you do psychotherapy at college, you learn Albert Ellis's cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral emotive therapy, it's called actually. Anyway, so somebody joked Pierre Grimes is like the Luffy from One Piece of real life, because he runs into these like heavy hitters in all these different areas. But he asks them kind of the same sort of question. Do you want to get into philosophy? You're interested in the hero's journey. Do you want to read the Symposium, which gives the archetype, the paradigm of the hero's journey? Or, Joseph Campbell, do you just want to look at all of these different cultures? The manyness of the physical world. Oh, Alan Watts, you've had these experiences of this or that Zen practice or meditative experience. Oh, and you're very poetic in how you deliver your insights. You ever want to nail them down with understanding? Maybe even go beyond your experiences you've had so far? Oh, Albert Ellis. You say that So you're a very high position within the realm of psychotherapy. They teach your models at universities. Interesting. Do you ever want to understand the true nature of human problems that are understandable and solvable? Or do you want to keep throwing in this word emotive to leave a little back door that says for people to say, oh, some human problems are not solvable, so we need to prescribe drugs, so we need to have prisons, so we need to do genocides, so we need to hoard all the wealth? Or do you want to grow up and recognize that all human problems are not emotive, but rational and solvable? So that was the first chapter. By the way, every single person had the same response. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you'll find out if you start to share this, start to ask these questions of heavy hitters in the world. But we want to do better. So, good background to come from. What we are doing here is recognizing what our friend didn't recognize in that story, which is my lights need to, there we go. That problems are indeed understandable and solvable. That's not something you have to believe, but you have to trust for a while to begin with, just to play the game. And the example we were playing with, hey, you are interested in mathematics? You're interested in having two $1 coins and making $2? To play in this human realm of understanding, you have to accept the axiom or universal principle that 1 and 1 equals 2. Otherwise, you can't do mathematics, therefore you can't get into statistics, you can't get into calculus, you can't get into trigonometry, you can't get into advanced mathematics and physics, you can't do any of that. You can't play if you don't accept this basic principle. Not accept it, trust it. Rational trust, not blind faith, rational trust. It's intuitively true, but can you ever prove it in the physical world? Well, I have this capo for my guitar, and I have this capo for my guitar. I've got 2 capos. Do I? I don't see 2. I see 1 capo and 1 capo squished together. You can't prove it. It's a likely hypothesis, or it's a likely principle. But you might be able to prove this in a higher dimension that is the cause of this being a principle in our physical world. Again, causes and principles. So we mentioned nous before, or Gnosticism. Maybe in that Gnostic or nous experience of being, you can prove this. Maybe. Don't know until you get there. Did Luke Skywalker know he was going to defeat Darth Vader when he was just a humble moisture farmer and he knew nothing of the Force? You have to trust in something. Trust in the Force, trust in himself, trust in the principle of midichlorians or whatever they are that give you the Force powers. That's what we're doing. That's that principle of trusting certain rational trust, but still trust, certain principles or axioms that you take as a likely hypothesis as you learn, but you won't be able to prove it or confirm it until you reach the next level up. Okay, so that describes Star Wars. It describes 1 and 1 equals 2. It also describes philosophy, because as we were saying, philosophy is an understanding, dianoia, not about our physical world. That's lovers of opinions. They're not philosophers. They claim to be. Socrates calls them anti-logos people who are actually lovers of drama. They love drama. They love fighting. They love conflict. They're debate bros. They use all their big words from their dusty old books to win arguments. On a stage or on a YouTube video. Debate. By the way, all of these philosophers from all these universities solved any fucking problems yet? We're still running around in circles. Debate, or love of fighting, or Nikos, doesn't solve shit. So what is philosophy? Well, we've been talking about dianoia isn't about the physical world of opinions and loving of fighting or conflict. It's specifically about the things or the aspects. Eidos is the Greek word, mistranslated as forms at college. It's not form, the Greek word is eidos, which is the aspects that you can behold with your own nous, with your own ousia in the realm of being. That's what we're interested in. That's why the symposium is about the nature of beauty itself, self-beauty. It's not ranking hot chicks 1 to 10. No, it's not what the symposium is about. Socrates didn't rock up with other philosophers and say, hey, would you hit or miss this one? Would you smash or pass? No. In fact, one of Socrates actually describes one of his earliest spiritual teachers, a lady. All those people who think that men are superior, bollocks. Socrates' own teacher was Diotima, talked about in the symposium, who helped him progress through the different stages of beauty, different stages of love, to apprehend the nature of beauty itself, one of the aspects of being. So beauty is a spiritual yoga. Love can be a spiritual, or is a spiritual process if approached with the love of understanding. By the way, as Socrates outlined this yoga just means method. From the word yoke, to join, a method of joining with a higher level. There's one of the people in the symposium was following the logos, following his dialectic, until he reached a point and Socrates said, sorry lad, this is as far as you go. Not for my lack of trying or my lack of intent, but as human beings, as we climb those stairs towards our goal, necessarily we hit a block, preventing us from following the logos all the way to beauty itself in the symposium, to our highest being, our highest purpose, knowing the nature of reality, fulfilling the meaning of life. We hit a block. And Socrates says there's only one way of removing your blocks, son. examining your dreams to get the content you need to do philosophical midwifery to uncover what's false that you are carrying, that you can't also carry about self and reality whilst being this. For example, if you think, nobody listens to me, or I've got nothing good to say, but you want to get that promotion to manager, can you simultaneously have both? You have to sacrifice one. You can't carry a false, diminished view of yourself at the same time understand and recognize and know yourself as that which is beyond even the divine. You can't, because it's not diminished. Necessarily, it's beyond existence. You have to sacrifice one. By default, we sacrifice the higher. That's why we're stuck in our problems. That's why you need philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. That's what we're learning here. Yes, some people find it difficult to remember their dreams if they smoke weed. I've heard that before. There's a technique that I recommend. As soon as you wake up, hit record on your phone app before you go to the bathroom, before you have your coffee, before you even open your eyes, if you can do it, and start talking into your audio recording app. Whatever you remember. Then later on in the day, try and write out your dream from memory. After you've done that, then go back to your audio recording and transcribe that and compare. Compare your memory from the audio recording. That's a fun activity that I recommend people do when they get started in dream analysis. And we've actually, yeah, anything's worth it. Seriously, dreams are so rich and profound. Whatever you can remember is worth it. And we've just started doing dream analysis on the channel. Maybe we'll have a dream analysis stream tomorrow. We'll see. Hey, welcome, Wiz. How's your world? So, back into the book. We are looking for the dialectical structure within the map of how to ask questions to ourselves or to our friends or to our partners in order to surface our pathologos blocks that we've been talking about. Which you might even say is the most meaningful activity a human being can do. Freeing yourself from what binds you to ignorance and suffering might even be better than an experience of enlightenment. Because, hey, many people have had this or that experience, still have their problems, still stuck. Bought a book on lucid dreaming, started to get worried about taking my anger up there. Taking your anger, what do you mean? Taking your anger. Yes, Philonikos, loving of fighting. Yes, you got it. Lovers of contention, debate bros, gossip. Did you hear what Janie did to Jesse? Oh. I think so. If I control my dreams, I have invaders in my dream state, so I worry about getting into fights. Just want to be a pacifist. That's interesting. I wonder how much control you have of your dreams compared to what you think is control. By the way, it's still a drama, right? perfume. Oh. It's in the Fado. Yeah, we have a big series on the Fado that you can check out on YouTube. We go all the way to the end, sort of, but there's a big boss fight at the end that we weren't able to defeat. So we had to stop at the end of the Fado and get into the Mino, and we just finished the Mino. So we leveled up a little bit, but now we're onto the next book. We might do the Socrates versus Socrates and Jesus, a dialogue in heaven book. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that drama that you play out in your dreams with the dream invaders, still a dream, still a message, still guidance. You still play out the implications of what you falsely think that you are. The main character in your dream is still your pathologos. Just like in your everyday world, you're playing out the implications of a false concept of self that you don't know you're holding. Only in your dreams, every bit of furniture is a clue. It's a metaphor. Every state of mind is a simile. Every scene will reflect a theme. That's why dream analysis, spending your waking life doing dream analysis, might even be more profound than spending your waking life doing anything else. I heard that before. We have a noise. Where's my fun little graphic that says I have a follower? Thank you for following. Oh. Where are my Twitch alerts? I'll add them in. Paste. There we go. I'll make sure that they come up here as well. There we go. Hopefully Twitch alerts will come. Can you unfollow and follow again to see if they come up? Let's add them here as well. Paste. Oh. We have a video on YouTube and I think still on my Twitch page where it's a 6.5 hour long video where we review, wonder why it's not coming up again, where we review everything that we've covered so far on the channel, and we apply it to a kind of midwifery of Hassan Piker, who's a popular Twitch streamer. That's why we have all this text on the screen. I tried to make it go viral. Okay, now hopefully my Twitch alerts will come up now from now on. Yes, Pickle Rick. No, I shouldn't say Pickle Rick. That's an old meme. That's a make fun of you for having a Pickle Rick tattoo meme. Although there's a new season of Rick and Morty that just came out recently. I don't know if you guys know that. It's a It's like a cartoon. Yeah, he turned himself into a pickle in one episode. And I think there's a new series that just came out. So, what are the stages of the dialectic? Chapter 4. Got to be a philosopher of midwifery to understand Rick and Morty. Yeah. And to make a anime that's better. Or a cartoon that's better. Because that is mythology. It's the same love of understanding, philodianoia, the same application of the dialectic, the structure and pattern of the logos, in philosophy, to seek what's true, in midwifery, to discover and free ourselves from what's false, in unpacking the meaning of our dreams. Dreams are not literal. They're messages about your activity in this. They're messages about your reading in this, your guide. And hey, take all of it together and share it with the world. That's mythology. And whatever you do, whatever your job is, whatever your fun is, whatever your art is, because your arts are going to be creations of things that are like yourself. These are the 4 aspects of our single human art. And we want to look for, the structure of the dialectic in midwifery. That's what we're doing here. The Pathologos has a structure, a function, and a goal. Philodianoia or philodianoia. Dianoia is the Greek word for understanding. But not understanding how many beings there are in China. It's the understanding of the realm of being and beyond. The love of understanding. So if somebody came along and said, hey, I hear that you dudes are interested in where is it? A drawing of it. Yeah, I heard that you dudes are interested in moving from the physical world of appearances, of image thinking, of being moved by shapes and colors, of getting personal opinions, of debating beliefs, and being bound together in groups based on beliefs of Jeebus or Sky Daddy, or beliefs of Marxism and fascism, all these beliefs. I heard that you guys are interested in getting past that and going into this eternal realm of being, where you can experience as nous and you can understand as dianoia. How about I give you this pill that could take you there? We would say, to that, that's supposed to be a boo. We would say, boo. There is something significant about making that journey through understanding. Step by step. Here's the word dianoia. So just as philosophy is philos, which means love, and Sophia means wisdom, philodianoia. It's a new word. It's a word that we have discovered together here on the channel. Because dianoia allows you not only to understand the object of nous for wisdom, but it's what we're developing in midwifery to traverse our way through the physical world. to free ourselves from our false beliefs, to move from opinions and image thinking to right opinions, to nail down our right opinions and understanding, and to prepare our mind and self for the experience of this. But not only that, if we get to the realm of nous, or pure being, the brilliant light of pure being, through dianoia, we might be able to take all that we have learned by not just taking a pill, but by going through dianoia to reflect even on this experience and wonder, could there be a higher level beyond the realm of being? There are many spiritual traditions that don't, well, all other spiritual traditions are not based on dianoia, are not based on the logos. So for example, the Taoists that have this symbol. They think that this experience of pure being is enlightenment. Because you can't imagine a greater experience than this. And that's right. Tragically, right. Therefore, how do you go beyond experience? An experience has a beginning, middle, and end. Ever wondered what doesn't? So this is the significance of dianoia and why we call it philodianoia. And we're saying it's the single spiritual art, or the single quest of humanity, or the single model for education. It's all of it. Because every other thing can be understood. You can say, well, can Jews and Nazis exist together? Of course not. They kill each other and blow up everyone else in the process, doing a genocide right now against the Palestinians, setting up concentration camps in America right now for people who challenge them. But can you understand Judaism? Can you understand Nazism? Can you understand everything? Both ways of thinking and states of mind? Of course you can. Therefore, it's that which can unify humanity, while also preserving and making sense of and understanding the diversity of the human experience. No need for murder. The top word, which one? Dianoia. Nous. This is the one that sometimes is Gnus. Gnostic. But also, I don't want to answer too many of your questions. The whole point is to, oh yeah, philodianoia, yeah. Oh, okay, so here's dianoia. D-I-A-N-O-I-A. It's the Greek word for this kind of understanding that can be applied to every level. The kind of thing that you can't do in the spiritual world. Because understanding requires time, reflection, relationships, conversation, dialectic. Meaning, if this is the thing that can unify everything, and you can only develop a mastery of it here in the physical world, what does it mean about the meaning of life? Hey, we suffer all of the injustices and the genocides and the fascism and the wealth inequality and the suffering and capitalism, all that terrible, terrible horse shit in our physical world. But we also have the opportunity to understand and solve all of that only if we do one thing: develop dianoia. Meaning, we have a double-edged sword in the realm of becoming, in evolving from the self through being into this physical world, forgetting everything from our past, forgetting where we came from, forgetting the true nature of self and mind, to relearn it all. In this double-edged sword, we have all the negatives that come from ignorance, but it's only here we can develop understanding. One of the questions we've been playing with recently is, what's the implications of that? Can we take that and develop a good question? Because to be on a question, to carry a question is to be on a quest. So, speaking of understanding, how do we understand the pathologos? Well, the pathologos has a structure, a function, and a goal that is the same in all pathologos problems. Because of this commonness, we can often speak of a morphology or a form of our problems. Questions designed to surface the particulars of a person's personal pathologos problem help us to fill out the nature of the problem that the person has by following a method that stresses the order of the questioning. The subject yourself, the person going through midwifery, can anticipate the direction of the dialogue, and that you can assist in the delivery of your baby, of your problem. However, there are times when the philosophical midwife adapts the basic design of the questions to meet the particular need of the subject. And it is at such times that the method itself becomes a map to chart the direction of the dialogue. Therefore, there is no need for the midwife to appear as the knower. Very different from what we consider to be experts in our physical world nowadays. We don't play that game. You don't have to be a knower. You don't have to pretend that you understand the meaning of everything the subject reveals. Because the method itself arrives at a field of data, surfaces the clues to solve the puzzle like Sherlock Holmes, from which the person themselves can puzzle out the meaning of, puzzle out the meaning of this data and find the answers to their problem. Like earlier in chat, Fly was discussing curiosity and wonder and a level of understanding about beauty. Is it Reeve? Yeah. Reeve didn't have to pretend he knew everything about beauty or knew everything about Fly's problems. But he had a general sense of a kind of question to ask. It's not upon us to push our own opinions into people. It's like if you were a midwife of someone's baby, imagine stuffing in your own child and making them give birth to your own baby. That's crazy. That would be a body horror, terrible horror movie. Who's that guy who makes aliens? Giga? Life is a cesspool of suffering and ignorance. I'm not very good at impressions yet. You don't have to. It's just, can you maintain that curiosity and use whatever you have so far learnt about the dialectic to encourage self-reflection on what's most meaningful, to surface the words of the subject so they can puzzle out the meaning of their words. It is in this sense that the midwife only assists in another. Hallucinations might help. Well, that's what we look at. So what we have looked at also already in the first 3 chapters is every fantasy, every distracting thought, every tangent that distracts you from what you're focused on, every daydream is a profound message, a source of clues about the problem you are here to solve. You don't have to believe us. Just get curious. Each one of those is a message from mind that can be a doorway to the richest insights about yourself and what you are here to see. It's in this sense that the midwife only assists another in the birth of an idea, does not offer answers, does not offer interpretations. In following this procedure, the subject can be confident that the direction of the dialogue conforms to the art of midwifery. As soon as you notice the person that you're reflecting with is starting to say, "Hey, can I give you advice?" Whoa. That's not a kind of questioning that conforms with the art of midwifery. We are here to practice, bake into our soul as a way of being, and master as a human being in time and space. Advice? You're pushing your opinions. Stop trying to stuff your opinions into my birth canal. Gross.
That's weird that you think that.
So, it's important to learn this so you can recognize when other people are trying to manipulate you or fuck with you or just project their problems onto you. Maybe they're well-meaning, but still. So, even though we're the subject going through this, at the beginning at least, it's still important to learn the art as you go so you can recognize that the midwife is actually doing midwifery. And you can help, you can assist, you can, oh, by the way, I feel like I didn't use that word, it's your word. Try asking me a question to get my word out that describes my state of mind, or something like that. In following this procedure, the subject can be confident that the direction of the dialogue conforms to the art of philosophical midwifery. The dialectical method, it's not debate, it's not philonikos, loving of debate and opinions and fighting. The dialectical method. Question with dreaming. If you feel your dream is being taken from you in terms of your control, do you just have to reassert your control and take it back? That's an interesting puzzle. What makes you feel like you're in control of your dreams? By the way, are you creating the entire universe? Every time you go to sleep, do you decide, I'm going to be in France, and I'm going to have the grass here, and I'm going to have this person from my childhood come in? Do you do all that? What makes you think you're in control at all? By the way, who is that image of you think is in control? Is it the main character in your dream? Let's see. Have a dream. If you feel like you want to take control, see what happens. See the drama that unfolds. Does someone try and take it from you? Do you take it back? Was it a success? Was it a failure? Each dream is a message. Yeah. So, dream analysis is similar. You don't have to have the answers. I don't have to have the answers. The dream contains, every dream contains within itself a puzzle to be solved, and contains the material you need to solve that puzzle, just within the dream itself. The more accurately you can remember the dream, which is why we encourage the audio recording before you even open your eyes if you can, the better. The more you practice it, the more you'll remember. The more authentic you are with this, the more your dream will work with you. That's reading. So we're learning how to do midwifery, not interpreting, not pretending to be a knower, not pushing our opinions in. That's also how we read Plato. We don't care about what we think is beautiful. Who gives a shit what we carry in our brains? We want to know what beauty itself is. We want to know what Socrates is saying about beauty. We want to empty our cup from our own dumb opinions so we can find the truth and understand it and get into that experience and go beyond it. So, as we learn about how to do midwifery, we're also learning how to read in a new way. Very different from what they teach you at school. The way they teach you to read at school is, what does this book mean to you? And you can make up any old horseshit. To me, Catcher in the Rye is about Jesus and about capitalism. I don't know. Make it up. Doesn't matter. That's not reading. That's interpretation. So everything we learn in midwifery, we can also apply to reading and philosophy. We can also apply to analyzing, not dream interpretation, analyzing our dreams. It's a win-win.
A win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win. Wait.
It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
What feminists want is to specifically ruin your life.
Oh, I never thought of it that way. It's a win-win. But not only in midwifery, not only in reading the texts in philosophy, not only in dream analysis, but hey, if you were to create a work of art, wouldn't you want to follow that same method? Do you want people to project their own horseshit onto your work of art? Like a Hunger Games. All of the fascists and right-wingers are saying, Hunger Games is actually saying capitalism is good. He hates that. He's saying the opposite. Keeping people in poverty and allowing people to hoard wealth and therefore manipulate people and get them to hurt each other, kill each other for scraps, for the sadistic pleasure of this psychopaths who have hoarded all the wealth is fucking disgusting and wrong and needs to change right now. Therefore, do you want to make your artful creations also have a puzzle? That if your viewers or listeners or participants raise to the level of integrity that you were in, raise to your level of mind, your level of being, approach your art with that same level of integrity, they might discover a puzzle. And if they talk about it, logos, reflect on it, ousia, share it with their friends, dialogue, they might discover hidden questions or a twist like a good Christopher Nolan movie. And if they do that, they might even find the answers within your work of art itself. If that's the case, everything we're learning in any of these arts can also be applied to all four. Philosophy and how we read, midwifery and how we help people give birth to their problems, dream analysis, how we understand the mind and meaning and message, not of us, but of our dream master. Read not our own interpretations, but what Socrates is saying. Midwifery, not our own projections, but what the subject is trying to see. The dream is telling us, and what the artist is trying to say in your creations of mythology. Philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, mythology, the four aspects of the art of dianoia. Okay. What's interesting about this art is, what we're learning is the model of the logos and the model of the pathologos. So whoever you read, whether you want to read Kant or these other people who I'm not familiar with, Hegel, Nietzsche, Donald Trump, Hitler, whoever it is you're reading, it's the same game. What game? If the Logos, again, it's an if. You have to trust it to play the game, but ultimately you can confirm it in your own experience as you progress. Where's it? If the game is... Oh, let's do another one. If every kind of understanding can be put on a ladder, and each level or kind or type of understanding brings with it an accompanying state of mind or level of spiritual experience, from right down the bottom, nihilism, a way of thinking. Let's say thinking rather than understanding, hey? Nihilism. There is nothing. There's not even the physical world. It's all illusion. It's all Maya. Materialism. There's no divine, there's no logos, but there's the physical world. We're all just rocks in space. And so on and so on. Until you reach a break point where you think, well, actually, maybe it isn't just a physical world. Maybe there is a realm of being. But we are just ants to the divine. There's no way we can connect with it. That's called strict dualism. To people who think, well, there is a divine, but the best we can do is form a group and sing to Sky Daddy, Kumbaya, my lord, and then when we're together as a group, that's as close as we can be, and so on and so on. Until people who think, well, no, that's crazy. You can actually experience the gap between each moment. You might get into meditation or yoga or Taoism or Buddhism or Zen. And there might be even a level here where you realize, well, actually, if there is a experienceable realm of being, maybe there's something that experiences it. That's beyond even experience. If every level of state of mind and thinking can be mapped in the same way we are mapping the questions of midwifery, same kind of map, same kind of structure of the dialectic, only not applied to asking questions in midwifery, but applied to understanding all of the kinds of thinking and states of mind in this ladder. The ladder of what? The logos, the self-logos. But hey, that's not the whole thing, because as we've been talking about, this ladder also casts a shadow that doesn't allow any progression, doesn't allow any development. Becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm rubbish. And then you live out that belief and you confirm it. You stay trapped. You're blind from anything that brings you up, like we talked about with Socrates talking to that guy in the symposium. Keeping you trapped here in your, not the self-logos, but levels of depth of the pathologos. if that's the case, and it's an if until you can verify this, then whatever you read, be it Kant or Nietzsche or Hegel or Joseph Smith or Joseph Campbell or Adam Smith, you should be able to rank like a doctor, judging the level of healthiness and the level of sickness. What level of thinking has this author reached? What level of vision has he had an experience of? How far up this ladder of the self-logos has he reached? By the way, we're human beings. We also have this puppy here. What kind of pathologos do they have? How entrenched in their pathologos are they? When did the philosopher start saying, no, you don't ask that question? Or start not using the logo, say, oh, you just can't ask like Kant. Oh, you can't ask that. It's not a proper thing to ask that question. Or God is busy making a hell for people who ask that kind of question. If we have, and that's what we're doing here, we're learning the self-logos and the pathologos in those four aspects of philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and mythology. So that whatever we read, it's not a matter of, oh yeah, I like those opinions because they're kind of similar to the ones I already have. I'm going to be a capitalist, or a Marxist, or a socialist, or a Trumpist, or a MAGA. What the fuck? That's stupid. What if we can judge every work of art or every mind of the author, because that's really what we're looking at here, the human being, in terms of how far up he has developed in his understanding and state of mind or vision, and how far blocked is he from his pathologos, so that every person will fit somewhere on this graph. That's reading. It's not about bombarding a student with a million different opinions from a million different dusty old, usually white European philosophers. Not really philosophers, lovers of opinions, philodoxias. It's what we think is philosophy. It's what we're told is philosophy. That's bullshit. That's stupid. That's nothing. Imagine your first day at learning to become a doctor. They never teach you the ideal of the healthy body. They never teach you how to understand the cause of illnesses. And they just throw 100 different people at you and say, figure it out. That would be crazy. We would need to first understand the ideal of the healthy logos or healthy body, but also understand the nature of illnesses. So anyone who walks into our office, we can say, oh, here is your level of health, but also you're missing an arm. So here's your level of sickness. You're missing an arm, but also you're pretty healthy. You're close to the ideal for someone your height and weight or whatever, but also you've got arm missing diatitis. I'm not a doctor. That's what we're doing here. Meaning we have to do midwifery to understand the nature of illness. We have to do philosophy to read the Balboa translation, Plato, but the Balboa translation, which is free, by the way, because it has the actual Greek. It's not some translator's stupid opinions. Same deal. Because that translator is going to have a level of pathologos and a level of vision. By the way, every other translation of Socrates up until the Balboa translation has been really low on this ladder. The key words, ousia, dianoia, logos, self, the biggest word, not in any translation. So how the heck are we reading philosophy if all of the key terms are all not there and it's translated in physical terms. That's why we say you're not doing philosophy unless you're reading the Balboa translation. And it's not because I'm selling it, it's free. And that's only because Juan Balboa himself has gone through philosophical midwifery and gone through dream analysis, has learnt how to study Greek, has learnt the nature of the logos, because he happened to study with a master. So we're very lucky. So I'm behind in the chat. You go back. Oh, thanks for hanging out, Wiz. Thanks for stopping in. Hurts small brains like me. Be really nice to read Hegel's Dialectics by you. Wow. Okay. Well, I have, yes. I'm going to make all the money. You fools! You think you are gaining an understanding of the nature of yourself, but really, you're going to be doing that, but I'm going to be making all the money. Well, the joke would be on me. If you all do this, then you'll share it with everyone that you encounter, and you'll make creations based on this, till everyone will realize, oh, the reason why we even have wealth inequality or hoarding of wealth, and we're not just using all the resources to meet all human needs efficiently, renewably, sustainably, so we're completely free to do this, is only because we're a slave to our pathologos. But hey, I've been listening to Wiz and Reeve and Fly and all of their friends and students, so we don't do that anymore. So all of this money that I'll be earning with my stocks in the Balboa editions will be meaningless. You just laugh at me. Really? You spend all your time wasting it collecting money? You don't need money anymore. That's from the barbarian age. So joke's on me. But I don't. Thing about the logos is you can't put a trademark on it. You can't say it's McDonald's only. The dialectical method of philosophical midwifery presupposes a subject's willingness to play, to participate in a joint venture. My stuff is upside down. Putting a butt in my face. A joint venture of inquiry into the nature of your problems, the necessity of your problems. So immediately, there's no blame in this game ever. It's absurd. Why? Because you don't choose your problems. It's a pathologos you inherit by being a human being. It's a universal thing. That's why we can have a mythology. That's why we can be a subject of study. It's universal. By the way, what do you do if you've got a problem? Have the funnest game of midwifery, the best game in town. Any sort of blame or punishment is not going to help that. So it's just stupid. Don't do it. You can't play if you're stuck in that. People are made better if I get to be the one making them suffer. That's pathologos. People looking for mistakes so they can justify being their own parental tyrant and hurting someone else under the bullshit idea of punishment, which is really their pathologos drive to be a fucking terrible, unjust asshole. I shouldn't say asshole. Assholes have an important function. Imitation of the cruelty of their own parents. That's why the most cruel are the most ignorant and lacking in reflection. It's easy to imitate someone cruel and stupid. It's harder to imitate a Socrates or a midwife. That's why intelligence comes along with empathy and care. And ignorance is matched with cruelty. Because ignorance is simply the pathologos, which is an imitation of the cruelty we suffered when we were young because we haven't gone through midwifery yet. And again, not everyone is stuck in it as much as everyone else, which is why we have this graph. we all have pathologos, but some people are able to reflect on themselves or see the value of understanding to the point where the pathologos doesn't affect them much, or they have to be really shooting for their highest goals for their pathologos to surface. Whereas you have people who are very, very attached and identified with their pathologos. They don't say, I happen to be raised Catholic. They say, I am a Catholic. It's me. And if I have to learn, which means sacrificing ignorance and false beliefs, then I'm going to fight you and genocide you and do the Crusades and begin the Dark Ages. All this terrible, terrible things. Which is why we can say everyone will fit on this graph somewhere. And we are trying our best to go this way and this way. And we try and reach out to people who are themselves more intelligent, loving of understanding, and therefore more compassionate. So people who tend to have a care and empathy for humans and animals and the planet, that's a high level of state of being or state of mind. People who like to not just care for things, but understand how to care for people or share an understanding of problems. Especially content creators, people who share that with others. These are the hyparxis, or the best kinds of people we want to reach out to. And challenge them to go even better. Because it's only in doing that that they'll surface this, which is what we're here to do. Here to do both. And then we also say, hey, and by the way, once you free yourself from your pathologos and having mastered midwifery, and you gain a higher vision of self and reality with that understanding, we will say to them, please come back and help us. Share what you've seen. Please help midwife me and my friends here. Please help do a dialectic about what you have discovered as the truth of beauty and justice and reality and self. Lead us up the ladder and help us remove our pathologos. And they'll say, I'm not sure. And I'll say, no, we're not going to hurt you, because we understand that the pathologos counterattacks with people who do that. We understand that that's why we killed Socrates, which means we're not going to fall for it. We're going to do our best not to fall for it. And we value the logos. We appreciate what you're doing. And then when enough of us have that idea, well, the dialectical method of midwifery. It presupposes a willingness to participate in a joint venture of inquiry, true relationship, true friendship, and true love based on a shared love of understanding. Love without understanding can be fucking dangerous. But a relationship bound by a shared love of understanding, wow. So what do? You see the nature of your problems, you see the necessity of your problems, and the interrelationships of the obstacles you face when you are pursuing your most meaningful goals. There is a pattern that plays out. Whether it's in my relationship, in my work, in my play, in my creations, in how I care for my stuffy here. The same kinds of blocks and problems come up, necessarily. Not as an excuse to blame me or beat myself up or anything like that. Whip myself. That's silly. Thus, the subject going through midwifery, in learning this, to be able to recognize you're going through the process, to be on a joint venture, to share a love of understanding, to also learn about the necessity and the nature and the interrelationships of your obstacles. As the pregnant party going through midwifery as the subject, you are also learning to understand the art of philosophical midwifery yourself. Each stage of the dialectic is indicated by a bracketed capital letter. There are 12, and we want to nail them down in right opinion, because we're open and trusting just to play the game, curious, we're motivated ourselves, but we also want to nail down these 12 steps by seeing if we can match it to the dialectic somehow. That will help us to remember these 12 steps of midwifery, because we're going to be using them as we go through the book. It will help us to understand the pattern and structure, and also it's a kind of mnemonic device, a memory thing. It's both. That's what we'll do next time. Thank you everyone for coming by. We had a huge turnout today. A lot of fantastic conversations and play and fun and questions. And yeah, really, really neat. And we really set the scene for the significance of understanding these 12 steps and nailing it down by just matching it to the 4 stages of the dialectic. Thank you for joining me. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. You can follow on Twitch. If you join the Discord, you'll get a notification when we go live. Thank you once again. And thank you to people who've been donating. That's been exciting. Of course, the more the channel can sustain itself, the more of this we can do. And there's a lot of fun to be had. So thank you once again. I do really, really appreciate it. And I will, and only if you have the means, of course, and just your presence is wonderful enough. But yeah, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.